Hollywood's golden couple has just shattered the illusion of perfection. After 18 years of smiles, red carpet hand-holding, and anniversary posts that made the world believe in forever love, Nicole Kidman has whispered the 5 words that stopped Hollywood in its tracks: "I can't pretend anymore." The confession wasn't part of a movie script. It was real, raw, and reportedly followed a night of chaos inside the couple's lavish Los Angeles mansion. Insiders say that what looked like a calm home quickly turned into emotional storm clouds when Nicole finally reached her breaking point. The Oscar-winning actress, known for her poise and grace, was seen in tears, pacing the hallway while Keith Urban allegedly begged her to talk things through. But it was too late. Months of bottled-up pain, silent dinners, and growing distance exploded all at once. Fans who once called them Hollywood's last fairy tale couple are now asking, what went so wrong behind those perfect smiles? Was it love fading quietly, or betrayal brewing beneath the surface? Reports claim a secret clause, a mysterious new woman, and a fight that changed everything. Stay tuned, because what's coming next might be the most shocking celebrity unraveling of the decade. The night had started like any other in their sprawling Los Angeles estate, the one everyone saw in glossy magazines and red carpet interviews. Soft lights, music drifting through the open windows, Keith tuning his guitar in the corner while Nicole scrolled through her phone pretending to read. But behind that quiet surface, something was cracking. Friends say she had been distant for weeks, her smile more forced, her eyes tired from holding everything together. That evening, when Keith asked if she wanted to join him for dinner, she reportedly just stared at him and said, almost under her breath, "I can't do this anymore." He laughed at first, thinking she was talking about another publicity event or the endless interviews, but the silence that followed made him realize she wasn't joking. Insiders later revealed that the argument that unfolded was one of the most painful moments in their 18-year marriage. Voices were raised, accusations were thrown, and at one point Nicole allegedly whispered, "We're living in a movie that doesn't exist." Neighbors told tabloids they heard muffled shouting and the sound of something breaking. Keith, known for his calm temperament, was reportedly pleading, telling her that every marriage had rough patches. But Nicole had already made up her mind. According to a source close to the couple, she had been preparing for this conversation for months. She had met with her lawyers quietly, ensuring that every paper was ready. She wasn't walking out in anger, she was walking out in control. The words irreconcilable differences might have sounded simple in the court filing, but behind them was a storm of heartbreak, exhaustion, and disappointment. Fans always saw them as the perfect balance, her elegance, his warmth, but those who knew them closely described a slow, emotional drift. While Nicole thrived on structure and introspection, Keith's life revolved around spontaneity and constant travel. They were always loving, one insider shared, but living 2 separate lives. While Nicole filmed intense dramas that consumed months of her life, Keith was thousands of miles away performing for screaming fans, often surrounded by people who didn't remind him of home. The time apart became a canyon. Phone calls grew shorter, messages went unanswered, and their rare reunions turned awkward. Nicole reportedly began confiding in her sister, saying she felt like she was married to a memory. The tension escalated when Keith started expressing disapproval of Nicole's latest film, an indie project called Baby Girl. He reportedly told her it was too dark, too personal, and that she was chasing sadness. People close to Nicole say that comment cut deep. Acting was her therapy, her way of processing emotions, and his dismissal of it felt like a rejection of her. "That film saved me," she allegedly told him during one of their heated exchanges. "You don't have to understand it, but you don't get to shame me for it." Keith reportedly walked out that night slamming the door, leaving her sitting on the living room floor surrounded by scripts and silence. Rumors started swirling online soon after. Paparazzi caught photos of Keith leaving a downtown restaurant with a woman who wasn't immediately recognized. Though nothing was confirmed, the image alone sent gossip sites into overdrive. When asked about it, Keith brushed it off as a business dinner. But for Nicole, it was another crack in the wall she had spent years patching. Tabloids painted her as the heartbroken wife holding onto a facade, but insiders say she wasn't a victim. She was calculating her next move. She wanted to protect her daughters, her fortune, and, most importantly, her peace. Around that time, she began spending more nights at their New York apartment instead of the family home. Friends visiting her there described her as serene but detached, as if she had already closed that chapter in her heart. One producer who worked with her said she arrived on set looking radiant but carried an aura of quiet sadness. She'd smile, she'd joke, but during breaks she'd just stare out the window for minutes. You could tell she was thinking about something she couldn't share. Then, on September 30th, the news broke. TMZ confirmed the filing. Nicole Kidman had officially filed for divorce from Keith Urban after 18 years of marriage. Fans were stunned. Their social media flooded with disbelief. How could Hollywood's golden couple fall apart just like that? Yet for those who had been paying attention, the clues had been there all along. In July, she had posted an anniversary message that now felt hauntingly ironic. A photo of them laughing, a caption about eternal love. She was already gone when she wrote that, said one close friend. That post was her goodbye, not a celebration. But what truly shocked everyone wasn't the split itself. It was what came next. Legal insiders began whispering about something buried deep in their prenuptial agreement. Something no one saw coming. A clause so unusual that even Hollywood's top attorneys were stunned. Tabloids quickly gave it a name, the Cocaine Clause. According to leaked reports, Nicole had inserted it back in 2006 as a safeguard, given Keith's public battle with addiction. The clause stated that if he relapsed, she could walk away with full control of their assets. But if he remained sober, he would receive an annual bonus, $600,000 per year of sobriety. 18 years later, that added up to more than $10 million. Fans were torn. Some praised Nicole for being cautious, calling her smart and protective. Others accused her of turning love into a transaction, but those close to her defended her choice. She loved him, one friend said, but she also knew the reality of this business. She wasn't protecting her money, she was protecting her heart. Keith, meanwhile, reportedly felt humiliated that such a private detail became public. It was like watching his past thrown back at him, said a former bandmate. He worked hard to rebuild his image, and now it's in headlines again. As the story spiraled online, both sides went silent. Neither issued a statement, neither confirmed nor denied the details. But the silence itself spoke volumes. Hollywood insiders claimed Nicole's legal team had meticulously timed the filing, just after Keith's world tour wrapped up and right before awards season began, ensuring the narrative would stay focused on her. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a masterclass in control. She had chosen the perfect moment to step out of the illusion and reclaim her story. Even as she walked into court, photographers captured her looking composed, her expression unreadable. Fans described her as broken but brave. Keith, on the other hand, was spotted leaving a private rehab center weeks later, looking gaunt and exhausted. Tabloids jumped on it immediately, calling it the relapse rumor, though sources close to him denied it. Still, the whispers spread faster than any denial could stop them. By the time his publicist released a statement about him taking time for reflection, the damage was done. Nicole's line, "I can't pretend anymore," had become the story of the year. After the news broke, Hollywood practically froze. Talk shows, podcasts, and entertainment pages couldn't stop dissecting the fall of a couple that once seemed untouchable. Everyone had an opinion, but no one had the full picture. Behind the glossy headlines and filtered Instagram posts, Nicole and Keith were navigating a heartbreak that had no script. Insiders revealed that the days following the filing were some of the most emotionally charged of their lives. Nicole reportedly moved into a private villa outside Sydney with her daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, away from the chaos. She wanted silence, not pity. Those who visited her said she was composed, even cheerful at times, but there were moments when her eyes betrayed her. One source claimed she told a friend, "It's not the marriage I'm mourning, it's the dream I kept alive for too long." Keith, meanwhile, remained in Nashville, holed up in his mansion with only a few close friends by his side. Reports claimed he spent hours alone in his home studio, playing the guitar without recording a single track. His inner circle described him as lost, torn between anger and regret. A longtime friend revealed that he couldn't stop replaying the argument in his head, the night she said she couldn't pretend anymore. He didn't believe her at first, the friend said quietly. He thought she was just tired, that she'd cool off and come back. But when the papers arrived, that's when it hit him. She was gone for good. Tabloids began to piece together a timeline. Whispers of a mysterious woman from Keith's tour started gaining traction. Though her identity was never confirmed, several fans spotted him sharing moments that looked too intimate for comfort. One fan posted a blurry backstage video that quickly went viral, showing Keith hugging a brunette woman as the crowd cheered. While some dismissed it as harmless, others claimed it was proof that something deeper had been happening behind the scenes. When reporters pressed Keith for answers, he avoided the topic entirely, saying only, "People believe what they want to believe." For Nicole, the betrayal wasn't about a single act. It was about feeling unseen. Friends close to her shared that she had spent years supporting his career, even stepping back from some of her own projects to keep their family together. "She was the anchor," said one former assistant. She made sure he stayed on track, handled the media storms, celebrated his wins. But after a while, she started asking herself, "Who's holding me?" According to insiders, that question echoed in her mind for months before she finally filed for divorce. As the gossip swirled, one revelation added fuel to the fire. Court documents revealed that Nicole had waived her right to spousal support and chosen to stick with the prenuptial terms without contest. Hollywood analysts called it a strategic move, suggesting she wanted to send a message that she wasn't after money, she was after peace. Nicole knew exactly what she was doing, said a celebrity attorney who wasn't involved in the case but reviewed the filings. She left no room for drama in court. Everything was airtight. If Keith wanted to challenge her, he'd lose not just money, but reputation. The emotional toll on their daughters became another talking point. Paparazzi snapped photos of Nicole walking with her girls through a quiet park, both of them clinging to her hands. The image went viral, sparking an outpouring of sympathy. Fans commented that she looked like a woman carrying the weight of two worlds. Sources say she's been trying to maintain a sense of normalcy, keeping the girls in school and limiting their exposure to the chaos online. Meanwhile, Keith reportedly requested extended visitation, but the schedule granted him only 59 days a year. "He's devastated," one insider revealed. He never thought he'd have to count the days he could spend with his children. The situation reached a new peak when a gossip outlet published leaked details from the infamous cocaine clause. The article claimed that Keith was entitled to a $12 million payout for maintaining sobriety throughout their 18-year marriage. While technically true, the story twisted the narrative, portraying Nicole as a cold strategist who had paid her husband to stay clean. That headline alone caused outrage online. Her fans defended her fiercely, flooding comment sections with messages about how she had supported him through rehab and relapse rumors. "She saved his life more than once," one post read. If anything, she deserved peace, but the damage was done. Memes, gossip segments, and parody videos started flooding social media, turning their marriage into a public spectacle. For a woman who had built her career on quiet grace, the attention was suffocating. Insiders claim she turned down multiple interview requests from major networks, including one from Oprah's team. "She said she wasn't going to make her pain a performance," said a producer close to the situation. That silence made her even more mysterious. And in Hollywood, mystery is power. Keith, on the other hand, wasn't taking it as gracefully. His upcoming album, which had been scheduled for release in late October, was suddenly postponed indefinitely. Some insiders claimed the delay was because several songs referenced Nicole directly. One track reportedly included the line, "You said I was your home, but you moved out of mine." Fans who attended his private rehearsals described him as emotional, even breaking down mid-song at one point. The image of a heartbroken Keith only intensified the drama. Then came another twist. Rumors surfaced that Nicole had started reconnecting with a well-known British director she'd worked with years ago. Though no names were confirmed, tabloids quickly speculated and filled the blanks with wild theories. Her publicist denied any romantic involvement, but that didn't stop the headlines. For the media, it was the perfect contrast. Keith painted as the heartbroken husband, Nicole as the woman rediscovering her independence. Through it all, Nicole kept her poise. At a charity gala weeks later, she made her first public appearance since the divorce filing. Wearing a simple black gown, she smiled for photographers, but observers noticed her eyes looked glassy, as if holding back tears. When a reporter asked how she was holding up, she simply said, "Life moves on, and so must we." That line instantly went viral. Fans called it her soft clapback, a message to anyone still doubting her decision. The story had become bigger than the divorce. It was about a woman reclaiming her voice in an industry built on illusions. Hollywood publicists started referring to her as the new definition of quiet power. Even insiders admitted that by saying so little, Nicole had managed to say everything. Yet behind the silence, friends claimed she was still processing years of emotional exhaustion. One close confidant said, "She's grieving the time she lost pretending everything was fine." Meanwhile, Keith's camp was scrambling to control the narrative. His management released a vague statement thanking fans for their support and asking for privacy, but it only raised more questions. Why hadn't he spoken publicly? Why were rumors of erratic behavior still surfacing? Paparazzi photos of him outside a hotel looking disoriented added to the concern. Some speculated he was struggling to stay sober. Others claimed it was the stress. No one knew for sure, and neither side was talking. The uncertainty made the public even more obsessed. Every post, every sighting, every unfollow or like on social media became breaking news. It wasn't just a divorce anymore. It was a modern Hollywood saga, unfolding in real time, and everyone wanted to know who would speak first. By mid-October, the chaos surrounding the divorce had taken on a life of its own. Gossip shows opened every morning with new, exclusive sources, and social media was flooded with theories. One moment fans claimed Keith was planning a tell-all album. The next, they swore Nicole had already moved on. But behind the noise, both of them were spiraling in their own quiet ways. Friends said Nicole spent hours walking barefoot through her garden, trying to make sense of how something that once felt eternal could dissolve into paperwork. She had always been the calm one, the image of grace under pressure, yet those close to her noticed she'd begun writing letters she never sent, some to Keith, others to herself. In one, she reportedly wrote, "I gave him my stillness, and he gave me his chaos. We loved, but not in the same language." Keith, meanwhile, was reportedly drinking again, not heavily, but enough to worry his friends. One of his bandmates described nights when he'd sit by the piano and play fragments of songs that never reached a chorus. He'd start strong, then stop, like he couldn't finish the sentence, the bandmate said. Tabloids caught wind of these struggles and pounced, splashing headlines about relapse and guilt across every platform. His publicist denied it, insisting Keith was focusing on healing, but the photographs told a different story. Dark circles under his eyes, weight loss, the hollow look of a man who'd lost more than a partner. He'd lost his identity. The tension between them deepened when Keith's mother allegedly gave an interview to a small Australian paper, suggesting that Nicole had been cold toward her son in the final months. It wasn't a direct attack, but it reignited the public's hunger for a villain. Suddenly, the narrative shifted. Online debates erupted between Team Nicole and Team Keith. Fan pages dissected every quote, every gesture, every silence. For every voice defending Nicole as a woman, finally standing up for herself, there was another accusing her of abandoning a man in recovery. Yet through it all, Nicole refused to respond. Her silence became her weapon. Still, that silence didn't stop her from feeling. Sources claimed she broke down one night after finding an old recording of Keith singing a song he had written for her early in their marriage. She played it over and over until she finally called her sister and whispered, "I miss who we were, not who we became." The heartbreak was real, but so was the relief, because for the first time in years, she could breathe without walking on emotional eggshells. While the public devoured the drama, Hollywood insiders began to notice something strange. Nicole's team had been strategically controlling her media presence. Selective appearances, carefully timed statements, and subtle image shifts. Every photo, every event was curated to rebuild her as a symbol of resilience rather than heartbreak. She wasn't hiding. She was transforming. At the same time, Keith's camp was doing the opposite. He started teasing raw, unfiltered posts, grainy rehearsal videos, handwritten lyrics, and cryptic captions like "Truth hurts in harmony." Each one went viral, with fans arguing whether he was calling her out or confessing his pain. The situation took another turn when a close family friend claimed that Keith had reached out privately, asking to meet for closure. The meeting reportedly took place in a secluded hotel near Malibu. Staff later described seeing them sitting across from each other, not speaking for several minutes. Witnesses said Keith looked emotional, while Nicole kept her composure. After about an hour, she stood, thanked him, and walked out. "There was no shouting, no scene," one employee said. "Just two people saying goodbye to something bigger than themselves." That meeting became the subject of countless fan theories. Some believed it was reconciliation. Others thought it was finality. Just as things seemed to calm down, a shocking leak reignited the storm. An anonymous source sent legal documents to multiple tabloids claiming that Nicole had discovered new evidence of Keith's infidelity months before the divorce. Though unverified, the documents described a series of hotel stays and suspicious credit card charges linked to another woman. The alleged companion's identity remained hidden, but the story was enough to dominate headlines for a week. Keith's lawyer called it false and defamatory, while Nicole's camp simply refused to comment. The silence once again spoke louder than denial. The backlash hit Keith hard. Sponsors began reconsidering their partnerships, and his tour merchandise line was quietly paused. One insider revealed that he was furious at the leaks and believed someone from Nicole's team was behind it. He reportedly confronted her over text, sending a message that read, "You won. Is that what you wanted?" She never replied. Instead, she posted a photo of a sunrise with the caption, "Peace costs everything." Within minutes, it became one of her most liked posts ever. Meanwhile, their daughters were caught in the middle. Friends say Sunday. Rose, the older one, started asking questions about why her father couldn't come home. Nicole, determined to protect them, told her, "Sometimes grown-ups break so the children don't have to." Keith's rare visits were described as emotional, filled with laughter that turned into quiet tears when it was time to leave. The custody arrangement, 306 days for Nicole, 59 for him, felt like a sentence neither parent could escape. The emotional strain began to show publicly when Keith appeared at an award show in November. Instead of his usual charisma, he seemed withdrawn, delivering a brief performance and leaving immediately afterward. Fans flooded social media with concern, calling it the saddest version of him they'd ever seen. The very next week, Nicole made her own appearance at a charity gala, glowing in a silver gown. Photographers shouted questions about Keith, but she simply smiled and said, "Life teaches us to let go." Those 5 words became the night's headline. Behind the scenes, insiders hinted that both had received lucrative offers for exclusive interviews, offers worth millions, but neither agreed. Instead, their story continued to unfold through leaks, whispers, and speculation. It became less about truth and more about perception. Hollywood thrives on illusion, and Nicole understood that better than anyone. She wasn't just surviving the scandal. She was directing it. By controlling what the world saw, she turned heartbreak into narrative power. But there was one thing she couldn't control: the lingering affection that neither of them seemed able to erase. Late in November, a mutual friend revealed that Keith had sent her a song privately, one that he never intended to release. It was titled "The Quiet Room," and the lyrics reportedly described a woman walking through a house full of memories she couldn't touch. Nicole listened to it once, then deleted the file. She cried, the friend said softly. Not because of him, but because it reminded her that love doesn't always die. It just changes form. That quiet moment never made the headlines, But those who knew them understood it captured everything their public couldn't see. Behind the million-dollar contracts and crafted statements were two people who had loved fiercely and broken quietly, each holding a piece of the other's ghost. As December approached, the story that had once been a rumor now defined both of their lives. Hollywood couldn't look away. Every entertainment outlet still treated their breakup like an ongoing series. Each leak, each cryptic post, another episode of a love story turned tragedy. Nicole had gone home to Australia for the holidays, hoping the ocean breeze would wash away the last traces of what she called her unwritten goodbye. She rented a quiet beachfront villa, far from flashing cameras, and spent her mornings walking the sand barefoot with her daughters. To outsiders, it looked peaceful, but those close to her said the silence was heavier than ever. One friend described her as serene but haunted, the kind of calm that comes only after surviving a storm. Keith, thousands of miles away in Tennessee, was reportedly spending most nights alone. The mansion that once echoed with laughter now sat in near darkness. Music journalists who visited said his recording studio felt like a shrine. Unfinished lyrics scattered on the floor, broken guitar strings in the corner, a single photograph of Nicole on the piano. One assistant claimed she caught him staring at it for minutes before quietly turning it face down. "He still loves her," she whispered to a tabloid reporter. "He just doesn't know what to do with that love anymore." By now, the financial side of the divorce had been settled. Nicole retained her properties in Sydney and New York, while Keith walked away with his Nashville estate and the $12 million payout from the sobriety clause. On paper, it looked clean, organized, fair. But anyone who's watched Hollywood long enough knows that emotions never fit neatly into contracts. Sources claimed that after signing the final documents, Nicole spent the night alone, lighting a single candle by the window. "It wasn't for mourning," said a friend. It was for closure. Meanwhile, rumors about Keith's new woman resurfaced again. Paparazzi caught him leaving a restaurant with the same brunette who had appeared in earlier gossip columns. This time, however, he didn't deny it. His only response to reporters was, "People heal differently." The line went viral overnight. Fans were split. Some accused him of moving on too quickly, others defended his right to find happiness. But the truth, according to insiders, was far more complicated. "He's not in love," one of his close friends revealed. "He's trying to fill a silence that keeps getting louder." Back in Australia, Nicole was rebuilding her life in quieter ways. She'd begun working on a new film project about a woman trapped in a marriage built on lies, an eerie reflection of her own story. When a journalist asked if the film was inspired by real events, she smiled softly and said, "Every role teaches me something about survival." Those words struck a chord across social media. Comments poured in from fans calling her an icon of strength, a woman who refused to be defined by heartbreak. For them, she had become more than an actress. She was a symbol of resilience. Still, behind closed doors, the story was more human than heroic. Friends described moments of vulnerability that never reached the public eye. Nights when Nicole couldn't sleep, when she'd replay old voicemails just to hear his laugh, when she'd whisper to herself that maybe love wasn't meant to last forever, but the lessons it left behind were. Keith, too, was wrestling with ghosts. Despite his silence, he reportedly kept a private folder of letters he'd written to her but never sent. In one, he wrote, "I don't hate you for leaving. I hate that I made it so easy for you to go." By January, Hollywood had moved on to newer scandals, but their story lingered like perfume in an empty room. Fans still commented on old photos, begging them to reconcile, refusing to believe that something so beautiful could truly end. Then, in a twist that reignited the entire saga, Keith unexpectedly appeared at an Australian benefit concert. Toward the end of his set, he paused, looked into the crowd, and said, "This one's for the person who taught me that silence can be loved too." What followed was a haunting acoustic version of a new song, stripped bare of production, just his voice cracking slightly on the high notes. The crowd fell silent. It wasn't a performance. It was a confession. News outlets exploded the next morning. Headlines screamed that Keith had dedicated his heart to Nicole. Clips of the performance went viral within hours. millions of fans dissecting every lyric. Nicole, when asked for comment days later, didn't deny it. She simply smiled and said, "Music was always where we understood each other best." For a moment, it felt like the bitterness had finally dissolved into something gentler. Not reconciliation, but acceptance. Friends close to both of them hinted that they had spoken privately again after that performance. Not to rekindle what was lost, but to make peace. They met briefly in Sydney at a quiet cafe near the water. No entourage, no lawyers, no tension. Just two people who had once shared a life. Witnesses said they hugged before parting ways, and Nicole was seen wiping her eyes as she walked to her car. It wasn't the kind of goodbye you plan. It was the kind that happens when you realize there's nothing left to fight for. In the weeks that followed, both began new chapters quietly. Nicole threw herself into her film, her daughters by her side. Keith resumed his tour, performing smaller, more intimate shows instead of massive arenas. Though they lived on opposite sides of the world, they seemed connected by something invisible: regret, gratitude, and a shared history that would never fully fade. Hollywood may have painted it as scandal, but for them, it was simply life unfolding. People still quote her words online, "I can't pretend anymore." To many, they sound like a confession of defeat. But to those who understand, they mean something deeper: the courage to stop performing in a world that demands constant perfection. For years, Nicole and Keith sold the dream of forever love. And when it broke, they let the truth show. Maybe that's what made their story unforgettable. Not the fame, not the fortune, but the fragile honesty that lay beneath it all. Even now, months later, their names trend together whenever one makes a public appearance. Fans can't seem to let go of the fantasy that maybe someday, somewhere down the line, the two will find their way back. Maybe they won't. But what remains is a story that exposed the cracks behind Hollywood's brightest smiles, a reminder that love, even when it ends, can still echo. And for Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, that echo will always sound like the words she whispered the night it all fell apart. "I can't pretend anymore." And that brings us to the question everyone's still asking. Was this the story of a woman breaking free, or a love that just couldn't survive its own spotlight? Nicole Kidman's words, "I can't pretend anymore," weren't just about a marriage. They were about letting go of the illusion that perfection exists. She chose honesty over image, peace over performance, and in doing so, she reminded millions that even in Hollywood, behind the smiles and flashbulbs, hearts still break the same way ours do. What happens next is anyone's guess. Will Keith turn his heartbreak into his next masterpiece? Will Nicole's silence become her final statement? Or is there another twist waiting just around the corner? Insiders say there's still more to uncover. Rumors of a tell-all book, hidden letters, and projects that might reveal what really went on behind closed doors. But until that truth comes out, the only thing we know for sure is that this chapter has changed them both forever. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Nicole made the right decision by walking away? Or was this just another Hollywood love story destroyed by fame, distance, and pride? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because this story doesn't end here. It just changes scenes. If you were hooked by this one, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got even more unbelievable celebrity stories, scandals, and heartbreaks you won't believe. Because in Hollywood, love may fade, but drama never dies.